poppin', y'all? It's your boy Gardi3, and welcome back to Coffee and Sports, the morning show. Of course, this isn't really my show. It is the show of the guy next to me, ladies and gentlemen, Mo Better. How you doing, Mo?
I'm doing great on a Friday, Brett. Ready to get into it, talk about some of the crazy actions that went on last night in the NBA. Welcome everybody that's joining us this morning. Let's get it.
No, absolutely. What's going on, Keith?
Hey, Key, good morning.
We did it last night, but I want to do it again real quick. Shout out to Carmelo Anthony for being a first ballot Hall of Fame inductee. So, we did that last night. We'll do it again. Congratulations to Carmelo Anthony.
I second that. Well deserved by Melo. When you think of his basketball body of work, national champion, 3-time Olympic champion, 10-time All-Star, I believe 6-time All-NBA. Great career, one of the best pure scorers in the history of basketball. Salute to Carmelo.
No, absolutely. Now, why don't we get started on the fun thing that happened yesterday? I know a lot of people are talking about, Ja Morant. See, I want to talk about the funny thing, and we'll get to the other thing later with him doing the gun gesture again, and if that's going to be problematic for him later. But, I want to start it off on a fun note. Mo, how come nobody knows how to act when Taylor Rooks is interviewing them? Because Ja Morant did it again. He hits a game winner over Khalil Ware. Khalil Ware is 7 foot, like 240. And Ja's like, man, it's just like shooting it over a pigeon. I'm like, dude, every time without fail, like, you put Tyler Rooks in front of these guys and they do not know how to act ever. And it's the funniest thing ever to me.
It's kind of insane because she's become the queen of sound bites. Every time she does a post game, she gets some crazy sound bites. Like, she can make a highlight video of just the insane sound bites that guys put in front of her in every post game. I don't know if it just draws that out. She draws that out of them. I get it. Maybe guys get tongue tied around her, but they say some insane things in post games with her.
Yeah, like I said, some of my personal favorites was Jaylen Brown telling her he's going to win 8 rings, and the other one being Jaren Jackson Jr. calling out Kyrie Irving to play ones. Like, where did you get that from, Jaren?
All right. To be fair to Jaylen Brown, he's only 7 rings away from that being true. So
he's getting there.
Right. At least he started a foundation. He is getting there.
Oh, don't worry, John. I saw it. I just wanted to start off on a fun note, but all right. Are you tired of the GOAT? The GOAT of flopping. Dude runs into someone else and acts like he got tracked down by a football player blindsided. It's so sickening. It's almost making people move him down spot of all times. Mo, are you tired of LeBron yet?
Look, I can only be tired in what way? Is he not a Mount Rushmore player? Sure. Is he at times, because he's been the face of the league for almost the better part of 20 years, but is he also emblematic of today's era? I mean, a lot of guys have embraced flopping and trying to fool the referees. He's done it as well. He is part of the good and the bad of this era. So I'm not tired of him. He's a great player. For me, it's annoying because he's not the only one. But if you're the face, if you're still the leader, and that's crazy to say, he's still the face of the league, maybe don't do that. Maybe discourage other guys to not do it. But he fully embraced it years ago, so I'm kind of used to it now.
Yeah, I'm just kind of immune to, like, LeBron, like, when he flops and everything. In fact, I sometimes get a kick out of it because he's such a terrible actor at times, too, and it's the funniest thing ever because he gets hit and he takes, like, a full, like, second to process, and all of a sudden he's like, my back. Oh, you got me, brother. Like,
right. You know what he does? He kind of does the Ric Flair. There's a delayed reaction, right?
No, exactly, and that's why I find it almost funny at times. I can see why people would find it annoying, to be clear. and you know why, people, hate on it, but at the same time, at this point, I've just kind of accepted it.
Yeah.
And the way he does it is just funny, just because of how delayed he is.
I tell you, he's got a future with the WWE if he chooses to.
You know what? I would take it. She's better than Doris.
Yeah. I don't know. Doris is really, when it comes to play-by-play or getting involved, Doris is sharp. I'm not sleeping on Taylor, though, because I think she's up and coming, and she's going to be one of the bigger names on that network. But I don't know about Doris. Let's not sleep on Doris Burke. She's pretty sharp.
And then Key corrected herself. Not Doris, Holly Rowe.
Then we agree 100%.
Let's see. Then thoughts on my prediction of Portland making the play-in? Hey, it's still very possible. I like it. Portland is trending upwards, and I think that this is great for Portland because, hey, this is going to be great to build on for next year for them.
Is it really great for them? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Portland has their own picks. Like, we can agree that on that roster right now, they don't have a foundational player. Like, they've got some really good players, but there's not any one guy that you go, we can build around him, and he's going to lead us into prosperity. I think they have good pieces, but if you have your own picks in this coming draft, I think it would behoove them to not make the playoffs.
See, I think that's the best part is I think they'll fall short.
Well, I was getting ready to say, I'm listening to the words that came out of my own mouth. Like, they actually aren't going to make the playoffs, right? So if they should make the play-in, I'm not concerned about them winning that little mini series.
And yeah, absolutely. Like, and that's why I think it's so great for them to build on, because they're in a spot where they're competitive. They can build on it next year, but they're also still going to get a good pick. And this is a draft that is also very deep. So I think there's going to be plenty of, prospects for them to still snag wherever they end up.
Yeah, look, and I'd like to see them draft some guys that can do more than just one thing specifically. So I'd like them to get guys that can score at all three levels, maybe get some shooters out there. I think this is a big offseason for not just the Blazers, but for Chauncey Billups as well. But look, for the fun of it, I think it'd be a good building block. I agree with you. If they just make the play-in and be able to compete in it and get that feel.
The funny part is if they make the play-in, like, they could very well win that first game. The funny part is I could see them beating either the Kings or the Mavericks.
I can't see them beating the Mavericks. Not with the healthy Anthony Davis. There's no answer for him. That's a series. I call it a series, but Anthony Davis is going to give you 30 and 15 and then some, and the other guys can eat off of that. I'm not going to say it's not possible, but if I were a betting man, if a healthy Anthony Davis walks into that situation, Portland's going home.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't bet on it, but I could also see it. I say I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how the play-in picture just kind of fleshes out.
Speaking of the play-in partner, in light of what happened last night with Mr. Morant, Memphis could end up in the play-in. I think they're there now, but they do have an opportunity to move up. But should they be without his services, that could change everything.
Yeah, that's the one thing I kind of disliked about what Ja's doing. Obviously, the league was watching him. They're like, don't do that gesture again.
Right.
Then he just does it again. And right now, the Grizzlies and Timberwolves are tied, but they have the tiebreaker. So they're in the playoffs, but them and the Timberwolves both have 45 wins. So they're dangerously close to the play-in.
Right, and that's what I mean. He has to think about not just himself, but his teammates. But look, when you try to show out the league office, I have to believe Adam Silver and company are going to be like, so we're going to suspend you. Let's say they say we're going to suspend you for the rest of the regular season. The rest of the regular season could cost Memphis being in the playoffs altogether. That's how close the West is. Like, they'll fall into the play-in. And if they fall into the play-in, anything can happen.
Yeah, no, and that's why I really didn't understand why. Like I said, I don't understand why he would try to like test the league office because I wouldn't want to risk suspension because there's also still a very realistic chance of them moving up. Like your third seed only has 47 wins,
Right.
your fourth seed has 46, and you're at 45. So you could still move up to even draw even more favorable matchup.
The crazy thing about the West, I think it's between 3 and like 7. They're separated by like 2 games or 3 games tops. Like this is one of those years where if you're in that situation, you can't really rest anybody. You need to play. You need to get some wins because a couple of losses and you go from 3rd to 6 or 7.
Yeah, so that's why I was kind of shocked to see him do it because it's like I don't know, John. Now's not the time to test the league. Don't want to get yourself in trouble and like missing because even missing a game or two at this point could be very very detrimental to your play.
I agree. How about this? How about this to think about? Maybe him taking on the league that way and knowing he would face some kind of retribution. Maybe John Morant wants out of Memphis because to me, I've talked about this before this all started. I think they have considered moving him, and I think something like this could speed up that process.
At this point, I wouldn't even doubt it because at this point, I just have no clue what Memphis is trying to accomplish.
Well, what the situation was, right? So they fired the coach that led them to at that point. I think they were 44 and was
29.
Yeah. So you were that good under his system, and rather than see how his system played out in the postseason, you said, "No, we've seen enough from this guy," and you fire him. And then since you fired him, you hadn't won anything until last night. So you didn't get better. And clearly, if you think he lost the locker room, I would have to say part of that might be impacted by John Morant's behavior or how he responds to authority. I think John Morant and his team or whoever represents him, they need to sit down and go, dude, this is your future hanging in the balance in terms of you being in Memphis or being moved, or what happens if you do get suspended for maybe more than 2 games? What if you get suspended for the rest of the regular season and it literally craters your team to where they're in the play-in and you guys end up not making the playoffs? Like how does ownership and management not look at you and recognize like we can't have you as the face of our franchise?
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I didn't even have a problem with Ja doing what he did the first time with the whole like what they said was like a gun gesture. But I still think it's just rather stupid to test the league on something so trivial to me.
And I agree with you. And I would say this: you can have a strong debate over whether or not the NBA should be able to tell you what gesture is okay and not, because I remember guys used to make threes late in games and they would do like a different kind of gun gesture where they would point it up to the air and you know what I mean, like go bang bang, and there was no kickback or complaints or anything. Look, if you're the NBA, just draw up some clear legislation and go, we don't want to see any kind of gesture that can be interpreted as a gun gesture or something inappropriate. Like, draw that up and make it that clear. Look, I'm not saying there won't be guys that won't still break those rules, but then you enforce the punishment. I think John Morant, to me, whether you agree with the league's policy or not, why would you take on the league? But more importantly, why would you take on them now, the situation that your team is in? And that's the part that's disappointing to me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's kind of the frustrating part if I'm a Memphis fan to me. Like, okay, I get it, Ja. Like, I don't think it was right either, but, like, not now. Yeah, and, yeah, so it's almost like I don't even, like the fact that they're trying to legislate, like, celebration so much. Like,
right.
to me, like, that kind of gives the game more personality. Like, when you make, like, all the different gestures. And like I said, I didn't even see what a big deal of what the only reason it was a big deal, like let's be real, was because it was Ja Morant and the
And
whole
he had a history
in his history. But
right.
at the end of the day, it's not like Ja's gonna leave the game and actually like pop someone. Like, so I guess I just don't like them just sitting there trying to legislate every little like celebration and things that they do, because then you start getting into NFL, no fun league territory.
And I agree. I think that guys need to be able to be spontaneous and in the moment and celebrate. Like emotion is a big part of sports. As long as you know that you don't do something that can be construed as disrespectful or vile or something to that point, right? Like I think guys do know the line. Ja's thing is he knew what the baggage he was carrying with him, and it's not brand new. He knew that coming into this season, and yet to go there and then say, you know what, I'm always painted as a victim anyway. I don't care. I'm going to do it like, how do you think that's going to play out? I don't know how many games he's going to miss, but he's going to miss some games. It might be just 2 games, and that might impact his team, but it might be more. Maybe it is for the rest of the regular season. I still think that I believe Ja Morant's 26 or 27. He's still got some growing to do. He's still got some maturing to do.
Yeah, and say I curious to see who they bring in next to be a head coach, because I don't know, Mo. To me, like what they did with Taylor Jenkins, I feel like it's going to rub future head coaches the wrong way, right? Because like if I'm a new coach, I'm looking at that like, well, like at the time the Grizzlies had the 6th best record in the NBA. They're at 44-29, and the coach, still got fired. So like if I'm a new coach looking at that, like what do I have to do to be safe? Like I just it just feels like the way they fired Taylor Jenkins, it's gonna make like any future coach feel like uneasy at all times, and that can't be a good feeling if you're a coach.
No, and you would think that with the trio of Desmond Bain, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Ja Morant, that you have your own version of a mini big 3, along with how deep they are. They go 10 or 11 deep. You would go, that's an attractive landing spot. But then when you realize that as a coach, you only have so much say, right? It seems like in Memphis, the inmates are running the facility, and that's not good. If you're a coach and you're like, how much authority do I actually have, right? Like if I go in there and I say we're going to run this kind of offense and we're going to run a spread offense where everybody touches the ball, and John Morant's not happy because he wants to go back to being more ball dominant, does that mean he can cancel out what I say? I think there's some problems, not just in management, but in the organization. It's one thing to respect your players and play and listen to them, but when they can override what the coach thinks or what he believes or his system, I think that's a lot.
Say, didn't LeBron get David Blatt fired and they were in first place?
He did.
He did. The one thing I will say that's just so different between what the Grizzlies did and what happened with like David Blatt, or even what the Bucks did with Adrian Griffin, is normally if you're going to fire your coach that's in first place or even doing really well, you do it earlier still, right? Like
Right.
David Blatt got canned before the All-Star break. Griffin got canned before the All-Star break. The fact that they waited until there's like 10 games left until the playoffs, like
Right.
the season's almost over, and then you fire your coach. It's not so much the fact that Jenkins got fired that's like overly surprising. It's the NBA. Coaches come and go. It just happens. It's the fact of the timing. It happened so late that you're just like, wait a minute, what are you doing? Like, you legitimately have a chance. I think because I think they have a legitimate chance to make a decent playoff run.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, hey, by the way, the coach is gone with only 12 games left till the playoffs. It's the timing that's a surprising thing, not so much the firing, I think.
I think that's my biggest issue too. This late in the season, the record that they have, even if you're in management, you've made up your mind, we don't feel like Taylor's our guy. We're gonna let him play out the rest of his season to see. He might either prove us wrong or prove us right. But you didn't even let him go into the postseason and say, let's say the Grizzlies go into the postseason and they get knocked out in the first round. I can understand why you would move on from him, right? You'd be like, okay, so he's not the guy. It's going in the other direction. I thought it was weird because they fired him right before the postseason. And that, I don't know how many times that's been done in the NBA this late in the season. I'm sure it's not been done many times. That's kind of crazy to me because it's not like you can turn around and go, let's go on a coaching search. No, if you do something like that late in the year, clearly you're going to just bring up an assistant to make that guy the head coach. And are you setting that assistant up for failure if you guys get bounced early in the first round, right? You're going to say, well, that guy's not the guy either, right? You're right. Coaches come and go, but you were solidly a top 6 team in your conference, which is a loaded conference, and you fired your coach like he underachieved. I think for what they have, when you look at them top to bottom, I thought Memphis was going to be right there as a top 5 or 6 team. I don't think he's underachieved. You could make a case that some of his better players have kind of fallen off a little bit late in the season, but that's not always coaching. That's them and what they do on and off the court.
Yeah, no, and I completely agree with that. It's like so that like if it's a tanking team getting rid of their coach, like 10 games left to go, okay, who cares? Whatever. They've underachieved all year. Like if the Pistons got rid of Monty with like 10 games left to go, I would have just been like, great, should have done a 10 game sooner.
Right.
But the 6th best team in the West getting rid of their coach with 12 games to go, you're just like, whoa, wait a minute. Like there's got to be like an Ime Udoka level scandal going on behind the scenes or something because there ain't no way. But I did want to mention your Lakers, Mo. They did play a tough game against Golden State. Just missed out on getting the job done. Very close game. Mo, what did you think about the game last night? And would you be would you be a little scared going against Golden State in a series if it came down to it?
Nah, I still think Lakers in 5. I don't think the Warriors are a threat. I think the Warriors have a lot of people fooled. I think it's fool's gold. Like they think about it. It's easy to go, well, the Warriors beat them or they're a threat. Like, do I think Brandon Podziemski is going to score 28 points? No, not on a regular basis. Like if he just played his normal game, you would have been like, Pods had a good game. Pods looked like Steph Curry at times more than Steph Curry did last night. So if that's going to be the linchpin that, well, Pods is going to average 28 points in the series versus the Lakers, then we're going home. But I know he's not. And I know that our bench, which isn't a great bench, our bench is going to score more than 7 points. I also know that the guys off the bench, they're not going to go. I believe they went, I think it was 2 from 12 from 3. And to the bigger point, if Luka has a good game, not a great game, not a 38, 10, and 10 game, but if he just has a good game, we win the game, even with Pod scoring 28. You got bad Luka offensively, and you had bad Luka defensively, and Golden State exposed that. Look, I told people when the trade went down, there are going to be games where Luka and LeBron look amazing, and they're going to look dominant, but there's going to be games where it doesn't play out as well because Luka's ball, he's not that he's ball dominant, but he's not a shooter. He shoots a lot, but he's not a shooter. He's a scorer. There are going to be games where he's 6 for 18 or even worse. It happens. And that's when he can get exposed more. When he's dominant offensively and he's shooting a high percentage, let's say 12 for 20, and he's getting to the free throw line, that offsets any deficiencies he has on defense. I thought a lot of things came together well for Golden State, and give them credit. They won that game, and they won that game on the strength of, I thought Steph played great, Podziemski played great, Jimmy Buckets didn't have a high-scoring game, but him and Draymond were terrific defensively. I think Golden State, should they meet the Lakers in the first round, they're going to go home in the first round. Should they not play the Lakers, do I think they can win a first-round series? I do. I just don't think they're overpowering the way other people did. Like right before the show, I saw some pundits go, well, if we really revisit the Jimmy Butler trade versus the Luka trade, when you think about it, the Jimmy Butler trade is going to have more impact because Golden State is so deep. And I'm like, they've got, if you want to say that their others or role players are a little bit better than Lakers, I agree with that. But I don't buy into that they're better. I don't see it. I don't see it. And that's not a knock because I like Jimmy Butler. I'm a big Steph fan. But if you're asking me, do I see the Warriors in the conference finals? I don't see it. And look, by the way, even as a Laker fan, I'm honest. I'm tongue in cheek about the Lakers and 5 thing. I said it when we were really having a serious conversation. I said the Lakers, because of Luka and LeBron, have a puncher's chance to have a deep playoff run. But because of their defense and their lack of rim protection, they also have a chance to go home early. Steph had 37 points last night, right?
Yeah.
He only made 4 threes. Steph, the bulk of his points, Brett, was going to the basket. Steph was attacking the basket, and it was easy to attack the basket against the Lakers because there's no rim protection.
Yeah, and actually, I completely agree with you because I think this idea that Golden State has this amazing depth is kind of like it's overblown a little bit, right? Because I do like Jonathan Kuminga as a 6th man, but after that, like you get into some really questionable players really quickly, like trusting them in the playoffs. Like I'll give you Kevon Looney. So let's say you're 7 deep, and now let's start playing this game. Like
you trust Buddy Hield?
Yep.
I don't trust Buddy Hield in the playoffs.
I do trust Quentin Post.
Nah, I'm not trusting that guy. By the way, we both like Pajinski. I think Pajinski will be fine, but I don't trust Quentin Post. I like Moses Moody, but he's very streaky as a shooter. I'm just saying, there's regular season and then there's the postseason. I'm impressed with how Golden State has turned it around under Jimmy Butler. I don't buy that the Jimmy Butler trade is more impactful than the Luka trade because even bad Luka can put up a triple-double when he's bad. That's bad Luka. An efficient Luka is a completely different game. So I'm going to give the Warriors credit because Steph can be amazing and Draymond and Jimmy Butler, it alters what they do defensively. I still think that in the postseason, I don't think Golden State has enough firepower to go on a deep run.
No, and like I said, I completely agree. And that's kind of just the point I was making. Because I think guys like Buddy Hield, Quentin Post, I think they're fine during the regular season. But if you ask me, like, to buy stock in them in the postseason, I would avoid it like the plague. So I completely agree with that. And I would take the Lakers over the Warriors if they matched up in a series as well.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to be a homer. I don't think, look, there's always a bigger picture. I don't believe that either team is going to the finals. Let's at least start there. Now, they could both prove me wrong, and I'm selfish. I'd love it if the Lakers went on a big run, but I don't think they have the personnel overall to go on a big. You would have to have LeBron and Luka play out of their minds in each round of the playoffs for that to happen. And even if they played out of their minds, if the role players like Finney Smith and company don't make open shots, they could still lose.
Yeah, no, I agree. And of course, I got a real quick shout out my guy, Giannis. I get it. He was playing the, beat up 76ers, but, still going for, 35, 20, and 17 is pretty insane stat line to have. And he had that too in regulation, didn't even need overtime for it. So, just wanted to shout that out real quick because I think that's pretty wild.
The one thing that I always love about Giannis is he doesn't cheat you. It's late in the season. These are the dog days. I don't think the Bucks can move up in the standings. They're kind of set at where they are. And this guy is just relentless no matter what. He only knows how to play one way.
And that's what I love about Giannis too. It doesn't matter who we're playing, what the situation we're in. Like, he's going to be going 110%. So to be fair, Key, I think Kevin Harlan's just the GOAT in like any sequence. I just love Kevin Harlan.
Yeah.
He's my second favorite announcer, right behind Mike Breen, but that's also because I'm hooked on when he goes bang.
That's what a competition. Yeah, I think they're evenly matched, but the bang separates them, right?
It's either the greatest thing you'll ever hear or the worst thing you'll ever hear, right, Mo? Like when it's for your team, it's fantastic. You love it, you're hyped. But as soon as you hear that bang against your team, you're just like, pack it in, boys. It's over.
Yes, that you know what, that's true. As a fan, when you're watching on TV, when he goes bang and it's against your team, you hold your head down too, like you're on the floor, like damn.
I look like Jimmy Butler in that one picture against the Lakers. As soon as that happens, just completely just deflated, just like yeah, it's over, isn't it?
I agree.
Say, because I remember that Bucks Celtics, we got hit with that a couple times in that Game 7, and I'm just like, come on, no, this is not supposed to happen like this. But of course, Mo, gonna talk a little NFL too. Say Geno Smith got paid. Him and the Raiders agreed to an $85.5 million contract extension after the Seahawks trade. So I'm curious. What do you think about the Raiders extending Geno?
I think them extending Geno and giving him that extension, that is a lot about not just Geno, but his relationship to Pete Carroll, right? That's Pete Carroll convincing management that Geno's my guy. I know what I could get out of Geno. They think going forward they can win and be competitive with Geno. Look, I think if you put enough talent around Geno Smith in the right system, that thinking is fair. I have no problem with that. Geno's proven that he can be a very good, competent quarterback. I don't think that nobody would put him up in that elite status or that top 10 status, but he is a competent, good quarterback. And depending on what the Raiders do in the draft, look, I think he is the guy for the next couple of years for them. So I have no problem with that.
Yeah, same. And like I said, I like the length of it. It's just a 2-year deal, and I think Geno will still be, a very productive quarterback in the length of that 2 years. So I think they got the money right, and I think they got the years right. So I actually really like this for the Raiders.
And I like it for Geno. Good for Geno.
No, absolutely. Gives them time, too, if they want to, pick somebody up. And, they could get, like, let's say a Jackson Dart maybe and put him behind Geno and learn for a couple of years. So,
Facts.
Oh, yeah, Mark Jackson going mama. There goes that man is also a good one.
I kind of miss that. Maybe when I know that the NBA is supposed to be on NBC again, but when does that actually kick in? Maybe they can put Mark Jackson over there.
I think it's next year, and I hope so. I love Mark Jackson as well. I love it when somebody's getting like ISO and crossed up, and just listening to him going, "Hold on, may I have that dance?" Mama, there goes that man. Like,
yeah.
He strings together his catchphrases so well. I love it every time.
I know Jeff Van Gundy went back to coaching, and he's an assistant coach on the Clippers. But I like the chemistry between Jeff Van Gundy and Mark Jackson.
Yeah, like I said, I would definitely love to see Mark brought back. That'd be fantastic. Yeah, no, I'm shocked too that Tyler Lockett, nobody signed him. He seems like I'm guessing at this point his asking price must be too high, because I feel like if the price was right, multiple teams would have brought him in already, or at least would be fighting to bring him in.
Yeah, because he still can be a playmaker on a team. Certainly not a number one, but either a really good number two or an amazing number three. Would you agree? Like he's still a productive player. Especially with his ability in short spaces, his quickness and change of direction. I thought a lot of teams would have already signed him. Maybe they're waiting for his price to drop, but I can't believe that his price was that high to begin with. I'm looking at my own team, and I'm like, look, we got a thin wide receiver room. Why would you not want to add a Tyler Lockett?
No, exactly. Like I think he can still a productive, slot guy that can move the sticks. So, what's your question, John? But yeah, no, I think he's still a productive slot guy, that can move the chains for you. So I think he'll get scooped up. I'm just shocked that it hasn't happened yet. Let's see. They're getting Mike Trico for the NBA.
Yeah, I like Mike Tirico. He's not my first choice, but he's solid. He's all right. Yeah, I like I said, I think Mike Tirico's decent, but man, if you're NBC, you would like to at least be able to get Breen or one of the other bigger names, like the guys that are like the voices of the NBA. But we'll see how it plays out. I'm wondering if they're going to go back to the old theme music because I kind of like that music.
No, fair enough. Listen, I'm down for them changing networks as long as they get people that like talking basketball. That's all I care about.
I agree with that.
Go back and look at all LeBron's injuries. Was his team leading or losing? Fake till you make it. I guess it's wild. John, something tells me that you're not the biggest LeBron fan. Just a hunch. um, that is something with LeBron. He doesn't really get hurt often, but he used to not get hurt often. He's gotten hurt more recently in recent years, but anytime he's injured, and this kind of almost goes for like a lot of sports players, right, Mo? Though, like when it comes to injuries, if they're winning, you don't hear anything about it, but as soon as they start losing, I hurt my knee like 3 months ago.
Yeah, right. That becomes the post game conversation where it's like, well, look, I've had a strained eye over the last couple of weeks. I wasn't going to say anything about it, but they do that a lot. And look, I get it. Clearly, John is not going to be at the LeBron James family picnic. But yeah, look, as great as he is, he can be a little dramatic. He can be a drama queen. I get that.
Why spend big on older Lockett when these young kids are balling out of college day one on a rookie deal? Hey, yeah, you know what? That's fair enough too. I think maybe that with a guy like Lockett, you might have to wait till after the NFL draft at this point. Like teams are probably going to see who they can snag out of the draft, and after that, that's probably when they turn to a guy like Lockett.
And I think that's a fair way to go about it. I think a lot of these younger guys who come into the NFL, they have to learn to play the position in a different way. Their route tree has got to be expanded more, right? And at least with Lockett, if you're a younger team and you're on the come up and you're kind of building, I get the younger guy. But if you're an established team that thinks that you're a contender, then you would value Lockett more, correct? Like the Ravens aren't going to go, we need a rookie wide receiver. They're going to say, we know what Lockett can do in the slot. Let's sign Lockett.
Yeah, absolutely. Like for some teams, I would think it would make some more sense to get like someone like Lockett. Like I'd say I would love it. I would love it if the Packers got Lockett, just because we already have young receivers. That's all we have is young receivers. We got like 7 young receivers. Like,
right.
I don't need any more. Like, okay, I'm not gonna say I don't need any more like young receivers because I guess if the right guy falls, like, and we snag him, I ain't gonna be mad. But at the same time, like, I just love to get a veteran presence in there. I'd love to get give me an older, wiser player that can help these young guys develop some more.
Right. What about a team like Cincinnati? You know what I mean? Like Lockett's not going to cost a grip, but how about having him in the slot flanking T. Higgins and Jamar Chase? That would be insane, right?
Yeah, I say. Chris says I put Lockett in KC slot and let him eat with Rice and Worthy on the outside.
Yeah, he would be terrific in KC. I'm with you. That's what I'm thinking. Like Lockett's value is going to a veteran team that's already one of the top teams in the NFL. I don't think he would have as much value on, say, a younger team that's trying to build towards something. He would have more impact on a team like Kansas City, on a team like even the Eagles. Not that they need him, but I think an established team he would have more impact on.
Green Bay be a good fit with their vertical game? That's what I'm saying, Chris. I would like that. I'd love to see him come to Green Bay. But, Gino's not the only one that got paid. We have a new highest paid tight end in NFL history, and his name is Miles McBride. $76 million. Him and the Cardinals are going to keep a good thing going for them for a while. What do you think about the Miles McBride extension?
Look, he's a really good football player, and I like the fact that he can move the chains, but he also has the speed to get vertically. So I think in today's NFL, you kind of value the tight end that can get vertically, that can do more than just move the chains. So he does have great value to them. And I think going forward, if Kyler Murray's your quarterback, which he's going to be, his best friend is a talented tight end.
And I completely agree with that. And I just realized I called him Miles. It's Trey McBride. Oh, getting my names mixed up this morning, apparently.
That makes two of us.
But I completely agree. I think, Trey's been really good for them. He's been a good fit for the Cardinals. There's not a lot of great things going on with the Cardinals right now, if we're being honest. But one of those good things that is going on with them is Trey McBride is continuing to emerge, and he just seemingly adds something new and it's been getting better every year. He has great chemistry with Kyler Murray. So at that point, just why not keep a good thing going, in my opinion.
No, I'm with you. Like I said, in today's NFL, a pass-catching tight end has great value. A pass-catching tight end that can get vertical it has insane value. Like, look at George Kittle. George Kittle's in year 9 or 10, and is still one of the best tight ends at getting vertically downfield. That has great value in your offense. It expands your offense. So I get why they re-signed him, because he has that kind of value.
No, absolutely. John says my Braves suck. Yeah, you know what? I'm sure they'll win a game at some point. They got 162 chances. They can't lose them all, right?
And they got to get 100% healthy too.
Yeah. I say, and the Cowboys also made a trade they got their new backup quarterback. They made a deal with the Patriots, acquired Joe Milton. I think that's hilarious to me. Yeah, I'd say, yeah. I know Rush. I think he already went to another team. I think he went to like Baltimore or something like that. I know he's gone. I just love the fact that the Cowboys now officially don't have their 4th and 5th rounder, because they needed, Joe Milton and Jonathan Mingo. And to me, that is just hilarious. Granted, I think getting Milton for a 5th rounder, that's probably fine. You know what? He could possibly develop into something, but the Jonathan Mingo trade is still mind-boggling to me.
It is, but it also says something about what they didn't think of Trey Lance, correct?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if you would do that to pursue Joe Milton, who I'm saying that could be a solid pickup, but you had Trey Lance on your roster and you were good with him being gone. Like, that says a lot about what you don't think he is.
Yeah, it's so fun. Trey Lance just so many teams invested. It just seems like a lot of people invested a lot in Trey Lance, and he just never got it.
Nobody invested more than John Lynch. We're still paying the price for that one, John. Still paying the price.
Yeah, and even the Cowboys, traded I forgot what round it was, but even the Cowboys trading a pick for him, and then just being so disenfranchised with them a year later that they're like, yeah, we're going to trade another pick to bring in another backup.
Right.
So I think this officially ends like the Trey Lance experiment just in the NFL. Like, I don't think there's another place to go for him besides like the CFL or a practice squad at this point.
You read my mind. I was going to go CFL or Arena League. Yeah, so,
Say, wanted Milton and Philly like his skill set. Solid move for the Cowgirls. Hey, yeah, he would have made a great backup for Jalen Hurts and Philly. So, curious when someone's on the trade block. think Rush goes to Miami to back up Tua for insurance?
That would be a good move for the Dolphins. I kind of like that. I think that's a good move. Cooper Rush is a solid backup quarterback, and look, we talked about this. Tua is a good starter. He's a good football player, but he does have an injury history. The idea that Tua is going to make it through a 17-game season is unlikely.
Yeah, and the only reason I said Baltimore, John, is because he did sign with the Baltimore Ravens already. Like 2 years with Baltimore, so he actually is just straight up Lamar's backup at this point. Believe me, I don't like throwing everybody to Baltimore as soon as they hit free agency, but I'd like to think I'm a little more creative than that at times.
yeah. Chris is 100% right. That was my point, Chris. John Lynch was trying to prove that he was a genius by trading all those first-round picks, I believe, to the Rams. By the way, I'm sure the Rams are like, thank you, John Lynch, because that's how we fortified our defense. But that's another day, a story for another day. Look, the only thing to me that actually saved John Lynch's job is that on a fluke, a guy that he drafted last became the starting quarterback.
Yeah, and you know it's funny to me, like Mo, because I've always said, like, you know, it's not always about the stats when it comes to drafting a quarterback. You know, you got to look at, you know, their, you know, physical traits and everything else. And I think that just goes for any position. But Trey Lance is kind of like a tale of caution on the opposite end. Like, they need to actually produce on the football field, and you can't just draft somebody based on physical traits. Like,
right.
There's always that quarterback that just, there's like not any hype about them, and then all of a sudden the media gets behind them because they have a good, you know, combine or a good, you know, pro day, and then just runs up their draft stock. Even though if you watch their film and you're just like, they didn't produce at all, they didn't look good at all, like playing football. Like, what? I don't care that you run a, you know, a 4.240. Like, you're just not a good football player. So
Look, but you know, and I know that scouts and GMs, they are wowed. They get wowed by amazing combine workouts.
yeah, it's, you know, we saw it with, you know, Trey Lance. Zach Wilson was another one that just soared. I say, so every year, like I jokingly asked Kyle this. I asked, and this is a fun question too, Mo. Like, who's that going to be this year? Like, who's the quarterback that's going to just jump up the draft boards?
I hope it's not Cam. I hope it's not Cam Ward. I hope Cam Ward turns out to be what people think, or at least project that he could be. But he was very. I have to say it. It's almost like the Madden curse. He had a really freakish pro day, right? There was a throw where he was on the run, I think running to his left, and he cranked it and just launched it going right, like 60, 70 yards in the air. I'm sure when they saw that, like, we're drafting that guy.
Yeah, and you know what? You know what's funny, Mo? My answer has kind of remained the same. And I think the answer to this question, by the way, who's going to be that quarterback this year in like that Trey Lance, Zach Wilson role? I think it's just Jackson Dart. He just all of a sudden has exploded out of nowhere, and all of a sudden, like even just like yesterday, there's talks like, oh, Jackson Dart's going to be a top 10 pick. Like, when did this happen? Like, how did he all of a sudden go from, you know, projected maybe like day 2 pick to all of a sudden like having like a good combine and pro? Just all of a sudden, he's going to be a top 10 pick. Like, I want to see every young quarterback succeed. To be clear, don't want to see anybody fail. But I feel like that quarterback that's getting set up to fail because of, you know, all of a sudden random media hype, it feels like they're going to put too much on Jackson Dart's plate.
Yeah, I could see that. And by the way, Chris makes a great comment. He brought up the infamous Mike Mamula. I remember that. I remember when Mike Mamula, he had this amazing combine workout. And they're like, Mike Mamula is going to be one of those guys, 15, 16 sacks a game. He was going to be that guy, or a year, I'm sorry. And after that amazing combine workout, he had like a couple of years with the Birds, but he didn't have any impact. Like, look, he's a great cautionary tale about the amazing combine workout. I hope, because we don't root against these young players, I hope Jackson Dart is everything people think he has the potential to be. But I'm with you on if you're going to have one of those guys that could fall into that Trey Lance like thing. If I were going to say who was the likeliest candidate, it would be Jackson Dart.
Sam, we've maintained this, John. If they ever make like an agent Hall of Fame, Kirk Cousins' agent is a first ballot agent Hall of Famer. So no doubt
he walks in like what he's done for Kirk Cousins. I think that agent might get elevated into the top 10.
Oh no, he's in the GOAT conversation, no doubt. Like say first pick, and he just might be the GOAT without beyond a shadow of a doubt. Yeah, no, and I agree. Like I think Dart has potential, but I also think he's somebody that's just going to need to marinate for a little bit. Like you're going to have to sit him behind someone for a bit. And obviously, the problem with drafting a quarterback in the top 10 is, if you're picking a top 10 quarterback, then all of a sudden the expectations are you're going to sit for a little bit. The expectations jump to you're our day one starter half the time. Now, that's not always the case. We can point to Patrick Mahomes sitting behind Alex Smith. And, Trey Lance, I don't think started right away. But more often than not, like the expectations go through the roof, and you're expected so much more than if you're like a round 3 or 4 pick.
No, I agree. And look, they more times than not, if you draft a quarterback in the top 10, it's not likely that he's sitting for the year, right? There's the pressure to play him immediately, even if he's not ready, and that's the mistake teams make. I think it's okay to sit a guy for a year if it's necessary, if he's not quite where he should be. I think when you draft quarterbacks today, more times than not, you got to exercise some patience. Everybody isn't that guy that is ready day one to be the man.
No, absolutely. So we saw, with Michael Penix last year, obviously the idea was to start Kirk Cousins, but that was always going to be kind of a disastrous idea. Right. But Dart going to Green Bay. Like I said, if we got him in like the mid round, I wouldn't hate it. Like we got him with like a mid to late round pick. I'm all for investing in the backup quarterback spot. Because listen, you draft him in like, the 4th or 5th round, let's say, you develop him well, and Green Bay's a great spot to develop quarterbacks. I think we could, if we draft him in like the 4th or 5th, I think we could, turn around and flip him for, like a 4th or maybe even a 3rd if we're going a little crazy. But Green Bay's always been great at quarterback development, so I'd be down, whether he stays a backup or we flip him for a higher pick later. Like that's fine with me. As long as it's nothing crazy, we're not using a premium pick on him.
Right.
Say the Vikings handing the job to Jay didn't matter what year Darnold had. Yeah, no, that's fair too. I have faith in Kevin O'Connell to make it work with JJ right away, especially with the whole system that he has around him. Not everybody can just walk into a team with, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, and Aaron Jones as your offensive weapons.
It's nice. It's a nice thing to have.
So I think it'll be interesting, but yeah, that's part of it too. So like I said, I hope Dart succeeds, but I also hope that nobody jumps the gun and drafts him just way too high.
Let's first get let's get health out the way first, right? Is JJ going to be ready to go week 1? Because coming off the injury that he had, even though it was right before this past season started, how close is he physically to being 100%?
Yeah, that's always going to be. I feel like he's probably 100% by now, but let's hope so, because it's just. They've already said that it's JJ's team, so for the sake of the Vikings fan base sanity, he better be ready to go. I can't really explain the Penix pick. I still can. I thought Penix was a reach when the Falcons drafted him.
You know what? That's the crazy part, partner. This is where we disagree. I remember draft night. I remember the NFL Gene was losing his mind. But I was one of those people that it totally made sense to me. I thought Kirk Cousins was a bridge quarterback. They overpaid for a bridge quarterback, but I thought he was a bridge quarterback. They needed a quarterback for their future. So I had no problem with them drafting Penix. And I guess they kind of proved themselves right because Kirk Cousins kind of fell off a cliff. And I think Michael Penix is ready to take the reins. I think Michael Penix is going to be a really good quarterback. I don't want to say star, but at a minimum, he's going to be a good quarterback.
I'll say it's not the fact that like I hated that they took a quarterback. I think that I felt like that there were just better options for them to take than Michael Penix, right? I think Michael Penix can be good, but I think there's some work to be done. And I think that, they still could have drafted like another, I think, they could have waited till, this year to draft a quarterback that I think could be just as good as, Michael Penix. And they still could have snagged, help with their pass rush. That, to me, that was the mind-boggling part with me because they drafted Penix. I'm like, okay, but you have nobody to rush the passer. And you may have just reached on Penix, who jury's out if he's going to be a good quarterback, a really good quarterback, because, you don't want to really tie your boat to a quarterback who's going to be like Derek Carr, good enough to maybe occasionally sneak you into the playoffs, but also like not good enough to be your true franchise quarterback. And that's kind of where I think that, Michael Penix just ends up. And
that's interesting because, like I said, he played in a pro system. I think he's ready-made, and he's a young man, but he's one of the older rookies. So I think he's more ready for the pro game. I actually think Penix is underrated. I think that there are a lot of guys ahead of him that he's going to have as good or better career.
Hey, and that could be true. And I hope you're right. Like I said, when it comes to me saying I think a player is, overrated or whatever, I always hope I'm wrong. So I think JJ is overrated. Very well could be. We'll find out. I don't think there's more than 2 round 1 QBs taken for the first time in a while. Most teams have a guy they go forward with. Sanders getting dropped to top 5. I think his best chance will be Cleveland at 2. Like, if Cleveland doesn't take Sanders at 2, then it's very uncertain that he does go top 5 at that point.
Let me ask you this. What are your thoughts on Shedeur as a quarterback?
I think that he's going to be I think that he could be I think he's going to be a fine quarterback. I think he, made it work behind a really rough Colorado offensive line, but I think that, he's got great accuracy, especially in that short to intermediate game. He's shown to be mobile enough to extend plays. I think he has a lot of great things that you can, really build upon. So I think if he falls out of the top 5, I think some team's going to get a steal with him. I think he's going to be a really good quarterback. I think he has a top 10 quarterback in the league potential.
I'm interested in, everybody doesn't have to be Jaden Daniels or have that kind of escapability, but I don't think Shedeur is that great an athlete. It's going to be interesting because the way even you worded it, I think he's mobile enough to say, I don't know. The pro game is a lot faster than the college game. I don't think he's that mobile at all. I think he's not Peyton Manning stiff, but he's not Aaron Rodgers either, right? He doesn't slide the pocket. He's not that comfortable in the pocket. A lot of times when I watch Shedeur, it seems like he's backpedaling and trying to throw off his back foot, which is obviously a bad habit. So look, I'm not saying the kid's bad. And I'm rooting for him. I'm always rooting for the next wave of stars, but I don't know if his ceiling is as high as other people think it is. Like, I think he can be a good quarterback. I don't think we're going to be talking about Shedeur in 3 or 4 years. Like, he's going to be right up there with the top, the more recognizable names like Lamar and Joe Burrow and things of that nature. Like, if you told me, like, well, I think Shedeur is going to be better than Tua, if you told me that right now today, I'd be like, yeah, I'd have to see that. I'll say fair enough. And,
I love that the comment section's so lively. Unfortunately, we're at the end of our time here. But honestly, this is going to be a great question, Mo, that we can get into next week.
For sure.
Biggest lopsided teams from best to worst and worst to better. So I'll write that down for next week, and we'll definitely, tap into that.
I love that question.
And then, is Sanders a better prospect than Penix? I think so.
You know what? See, again, that's why we're great partners. We agree to disagree. I don't think he is.
Hey, fair enough. And like I said, I definitely appreciate you guys for being so lively today in the chat. Thank you. Definitely appreciate all of you. Mo, anything you wanted to add before we get up on out of here?
Hey, thanks, Chris and John. The chat was live. Appreciate you guys joining us this morning. Make sure you check out all the great content we have at Wire to Wire Network. Wire to Wire Network. We appreciate you guys.
Yeah, catch the morning show back in on Monday. You can catch Mo and I on Tuesday for Meaty Boys if you're into wrestling. Thursday for And One, and of course next Friday when we're back right here for the morning show. So, like I said, appreciate you guys. Thank you. So, you guys enjoy your weekend.